Good evening from ABC News headquarters in Washington. I'm Howard K. Smith. Harry Reasoner is on assignment. These are tonight's headlines. Secretary Rogers pushes a two-China policy at the UN and seeks more support for a Middle East peace initiative. The White House says it is satisfied with South Vietnam's presidential election. A bizarre plane hijacking ends in 2 murders and a suicide. And Labor leader George Meany denounces President Nixon's economic game plan and calls for Congress to take over control. Reports tonight from Ted Koppel on Washington's big effort to save nationalist China's UN seat, Ernie Mastriani on an abortive plane hijacking that left 3 persons dead, Bob Clark on a major congressional victory for the administration's economic program, David Snell on the mood of New York's prison guards in the wake of Attica, Ray Maloney on the big U.S. military shuttle to NATO maneuvers, and tonight's comment on the all but useless business of spying.
The ABC Evening News with Howard K. Smith and Harry Reasoner is brought to you by the Shell Oil Company. Shell is trying to make things better.
The path of expulsion is perilous. To open it for one could be to open it for many. Thus spoke Secretary of State Rogers today, asking the UN to admit mainland China but not to expel Taiwan. In a 35-minute tour of world problems, the Secretary exuded optimism over U.S.-Russian relations, especially in the SALT talks, rejected a Soviet proposal for world disarmament talks, saying that such meetings produce many words but few results, and called on East Germany to live up to the new big power agreement on Berlin. For the main thrust of the speech, here's a report by ABC diplomatic correspondent Ted Koppel.
For weeks now, the United States has been signaling Moscow not to get upset about Washington's normalization of relations with Peking. Today, Secretary of State Rogers took note of the fact that Russia has received that message and accepts it as a natural development, which brought the Secretary to the main order of business now confronting the General Assembly, the question of dual Chinese representation at the UN.
The dual representation resolution is founded on the reality of the current situation. But it does not seek to freeze the future, expressly providing that the present decision is without prejudice to a future settlement.
Especially significant about that statement are 2 points. The United States now finds itself in the slightly embarrassing position of asking other UN members not to do to the people of Taiwan what the United States has been doing for more than 20 years to the people of mainland China, that is, depriving them of UN representation. Also, by his emphasis on the current situation, Rogers gave implicit recognition to Peking's long-standing claim that Taiwan is an internal question to be settled among Chinese. Rogers was conceding, in effect, that at some time in the future, Chinese representation at the UN could legitimately fall to Peking alone, even though America feels that is not yet the case. On the subject of the Middle East, the Secretary focused on America's plan for an interim Suez settlement.
In order to explore the possibilities of each side, we have discussed concrete and specific ideas designed to meet the legitimate needs and concerns of both sides. These ideas, giving willingness and good intentions on both sides, could become the basis for a breakthrough.
Today, for the first time, Secretary Rogers put America's 6-point proposal officially on the record. A Suez agreement would be only a first step towards overall settlement. The current ceasefire would be realistically extended. Israeli withdrawal would at least begin. The canal would be reopened. Some Egyptian personnel would be allowed onto the east bank of the canal, and appropriate supervision would be arranged to guarantee the agreement. That's the plan the United States is pushing in the hope that eventually it will lead to an overall settlement in the Middle East. This is Ted Koppel, ABC News, New York.
France's ambassador to Peking told newsmen in Paris today something has happened in China, and then he added, "I cannot tell you more." The highest level trade delegation from Peking ever to go abroad arrived in France today to take a look at the supersonic airliner Concorde. The talk was of possible purchase, but nothing was said about politics. The Viet Cong delegation to the Paris peace talks held a news conference there today. It denounced yesterday's presidential elections in South Vietnam, with its 91% vote for Thieu, as a farce totally without value. At the Florida White House today, there was some doubts about the size of Thieu's victory, but still optimism about the future. ABC White House correspondent Tom Jarrow reports.
White House officials are surprised and suspicious by the size of the South Vietnamese vote for President Thieu. One dependable administration source says it's believed the vote was padded, anywhere from 5 to 10%. However, on balance, the White House feels the election was the best outcome of an undesirable situation. The Thieu vote is seen without question as being a broad mandate for Thieu's leadership to continue with continued United States support. Administration officials believe Thieu will now move quickly to broaden his political base by trying to find a role in his government for dissident factions among Buddhist, student, and veterans groups. Of the two leading opponents, no significant opposition is expected to form now behind General Big Men. Vice President Key is less predictable. He will likely try to expand his political base among the military, but that is seen as no immediate threat to Thieu. It's hope within the White House the election will be viewed in Hanoi as an unmistakable signal the United States is not about to abandon South Vietnam, and the only way out is through negotiations. Tom Jarrow, ABC News, Key Biscayne, Florida.
I'll have more news in a moment.
This portion of the ABC Evening News is brought to you by the Shell Oil Company.
It's nice when a service station blends in with its surroundings. That's why some Shell stations look more like gardens than stations. Like this one in Carmel Valley, California. It looks so nice, it won a first-place landscaping award from the American Association of Nurserymen. Service stations can be ugly or beautiful. Beautiful is better. More than 40 years ago, Shell entered this beautiful Louisiana wilderness in search of oil. More than 180 oil wells later, this Louisiana bayou remains wild and unspoiled. Shell believes bringing oil from the earth doesn't have to destroy the land.
We're trying to make things better.
A bizarre airplane hijacking today ended dramatically in Jacksonville, Florida, with the death of the hijacker, the pilot, and the hijacker's wife. Authorities said that George Jiffy of Nashville, Tennessee, kidnapped his wife, Susan, and with the help of a surviving accomplice, drove her to the Nashville airport. They made a refueling stop in Jacksonville, where WJXT's Ernie Mastriani tells what happened.
The FBI says Mallory Gift Jr. and Bobby Wayne Wallace kidnapped Gift's wife in Nashville and then commandeered the twin-engine turboprop. In Jacksonville, the FBI refused to allow the plane to refuel and shot out its tires and one engine. According to the FBI, Gift then shot the pilot, 29-year-old Brent Downs, and his wife, Mrs. Griff, and himself. Another hijacker, Bobby Wayne Wallace, and the plane's co-pilot, R.G. Crump, left the plane when it landed in Jacksonville and were not hurt. Wallace has been charged with kidnapping. The plane, a twin-engine Hawk Commander, had been chartered by Gift for a flight to Atlanta. An employee at the Nashville airport said Gift forced his screaming, fighting wife onto the plane, then, brandishing a pistol, ordered the pilot to take off. FBI agent Jim O'Connor says he ordered his men to shoot out the tires and the engine.
I fired 4 at the tire, the right tire. Another agent fired 2 on the left tire, and then 2 into the engine.
Have you been able to reconstruct what happened from the time the plane left Nashville until it arrived here?
Don't know that. We're interviewing the other subject over there now at this time.
What relationship did the woman have to the pilot or the hijacker?
She is married to Jiffy.
Which?
Jiffy. He's the one DOA at Duval Medical.
Which of the men on the plane did the shooting?
He's the one, and the other one has been charged, though, with aircraft piracy.
The co-pilot, R.G. Crump, was hustled off by the FBI and grilled for more than an hour. Crump, obviously shaken by the ordeal, was questioned at great length at the airport and was then taken to FBI headquarters for more of the same. Crump refused to speak to newsmen.
Plane? No comment.
Are you heading back to Nashville, sir?
I don't know.
This is Ernie Mastriani, WJXT News in Jacksonville, Florida.
I'll have more news in a moment.
This portion of the ABC Evening News is brought to you by the Shell Oil Company.
What instrument would we use to check PCV valves? What's one advantage of a clean air filter? Explain the job advantages you can offer your employees.
Ron Link will tell you it's tough. The dealer training school that every new Shell dealer has to attend. But it's worth it, because there's a good career down the line. And it's not bad being paid while he's studying, learning to keep his business and your car running smoothly. But new dealers aren't the only Shell scholars. Recently, Irvin Dawson, a veteran Shell refinery man, caught up on schooling he'd missed as a kid. For 6 months, Irvin spent 2 hours of every working day in a classroom right at Shell's Houston refinery, and still got his regular salary. More importantly, he got the basic education he needed to advance to a better job. When Shell people want to better themselves, Shell wants to help.
We're trying to make things better.
The Senate today helped the Pentagon closer to an all-volunteer Army when it added $381 million to a military pay raise bill that will give lower-ranking enlisted men more money. The president supported the bill. Another success for the president. By a vote of 207 to 174, the House went along with him by agreeing to delay a $2.6 billion federal pay increase. ABC's Bob Clark has details.
President Nixon has thrown Democrats and federal employees for a loss in the first big congressional test of his plans for holding the line against further inflation. A Democratic effort to overrule the president and give federal civilian workers their scheduled pay boost January 1st, a raise Mr. Nixon wants postponed till next July, was defeated on a party line vote in the House. While he was winning on the House floor, the president and his wage freeze policies were being assailed in a House committee by an angry George Meany.
What right has the President of the United States or anyone else to nullify the provisions of a legal contract? And these contracts call for the employer to give a wage increase on October 1, October 15th, September 15th, or what have you. That is part of the bargain that was made at the bargaining table. In order to get that into the contract, the workers had to give. They had to make concessions to the employers. And, of course, the employer immediately, on signing these contracts, adjusts his prices to the contract. Now, along comes Mr. Nixon. He doesn't say, take that money and put it in the federal treasury. He doesn't say, give it to the little sisters of the poor. He says to the employer, you take it and put it in your own pocket. And you tell me that the workers of America don't agree with their leaders, that that's unfair? The workers of America couldn't possibly be that stupid.
Meany wants Congress to take control of the economy away from the president and write its own anti-inflation program. But today's House vote indicated Democrats are going to have a rough time taking the ball away from Mr. Nixon. Bob Clark, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
The U.S. Postal Service said today that postage rates will go up again next spring. A spokesman said scheduled pay raises for mail workers will force first-class letters up to at least 9 cents an ounce and airmail up to at least 12. In San Francisco today, the chief federal negotiator in the 96-day-old dock strike said that negotiations are deadlocked and no early settlement is likely. Mediator J. Curtis Counts said he expected President Nixon to invoke the Taft-Hartley Act, which would send longshoremen back to work for an 80-day cooling-off period. East Coast and some Gulf Coast ports remain shut down by Friday's walkout of longshoremen. A few Texas ports remain open.
You used a dandruff shampoo on Tuesday, and Thursday your dandruff's back? Mother, maybe what you've got is an ordinary dandruff. Ask the doctor.
Flaking and itching could be early signs of eczema, seborrhea, psoriasis. Try Tegrin medicated shampoo. Now in the new lotion. Tegrin shampoo has an invisible medicated barrier that fights bacteria for days, plus medication that helps control flaking and itching with regular use. Tegrin medicated shampoo.
This is a plate. It's not plastic, china, or earthenware. It's a new material from Corning. We call it Corel Livingware. Looks like china, yet safe in the oven and dishwasher. Corning promises to replace any piece that could break, chip, graze, or stain during 2 years of everyday use. Available in beautiful patterns. 20-piece service for 4, only $19.95. New Corel Livingware by Corning.
I'm Vita Blue, and this is Aquavelva Ice Blue. I started using Aquavelva when I was back in AA ball, making only $4,000 a year. Now, you've probably heard that I'm the lowest paid superstar in America. Well, I am. But next year, I'm going to be making a whole lot of money. And I'm still going to start my day with a splash of Aquavelva. Success isn't going to spoil Vita Blue.
Why not start your day with a splash of Aquavelva?
You used your electric razor.
How did you know?
I can feel it. You stopped using your electric razor.
No, I still use it.
No.
Sure, but now I use Williams Electric Shave.
Tell me more.
Electric Shave makes my beard stand up for a smooth, non-irritating shave that feels barber close.
Hold me, barber close.
For a shave that feels barber close, use...
Gradually, the behind-the-scenes story of the Attica prison revolt is being pieced together. Today, a black newspaper editor told a special hearing that inmates complained to him about racial hostility, overcrowding, and lack of showers since the riots. And today's New York Times reported that the uprising began as a result of a misunderstanding. A white and black inmate were practicing football plays, which a guard mistook to be a fight. According to the Times, when the guard moved in, one of the two inmates instinctively struck at him. The next day, following rumors the two inmates had been beaten, the prisoners broke into open rebellion. The troubles at Attica have resulted in demands in other prisons, surprisingly from guards as well as from inmates. ABC's David Snell reports from the Elmira State Prison in New York.
While the backwash of Attica has so far failed to spread inmate rebellion, it is being felt among the state's 5,000 correctional officers. Complaining of lax security, prisoner pampering, and inferior equipment, guards across the state are threatening to lock prisoners in their cells on October 7th unless their demands are met.
We've got a militant, aggressive correctional officer group, and we are on a tightrope between the inmates and the officers.
This is our big problem right now. I'm not worried about our inmate population in here right at the moment. I think we've got a very fine climate. But I'm worried about the employees.
Because what's going to happen? What are they going to do?
I don't know what they're going to do. They continually say, well, this is what we want and this is what we must have. Now, to an experienced individual who's worked all his lifetime in a prison, I know that many of these demands are emotional. They will be destructive to a program. They won't enhance it. You can run an institution two ways: through fear on the part of the inmates or by respect of the inmates. And by far, the more sensible way is to earn their respect. And this is what you have a hell of a job to try and sell.
If we had the kind of cooperation we should be getting from the legislature in the state of New York to improve these places, we wouldn't really need the kind of militant officer we have now.
Conditions in the prison are deplorable. I mean, something has to be done before we have 4 or 5 more Atticas, and I think we can't afford this. As it is now, all we're creating is bitter, young, black, white, Italian, young people. That's all we're doing. We're producing bitter people.
If the bitterness quotient among inmates is increasing, it could well be because prison budgets are not. Recreation facilities here, as in Attica, are severely limited. More bitterness because of antiquated educational facilities. Still more because of endless hours of confinement. Inmates receive their supper between 4 and 5 in the afternoon. The diet, for this meal at least, seemed adequate. But after supper, prisoners enter their cells, remaining there until breakfast call 13 hours later. Extended lockup time, say penologists, is when tensions tend to build. There are enough guards to check cells, too few to supervise evening activities. One guard demand is that the number of guards in New York prisons be increased by more than 1,000. Another is that they be given more training.
This is the Federal Streamer. You may have known it under the name of Mace.
Guard training consists of a 3-week course, which prison officials admit only scratches the surface. 4 to 6 months with heavy emphasis on human relations is considered ideal, but again, money is lacking. 80% of New York's prison guards have received no training at all.
We have in this department only one really good active tool to prevent riots: the officer himself. We must resort to riot control. We have, in fact,
to some degree, already failed.
Everyone connected with the New York prison system hopes that Attica will result in more money, more training, and facilities. Almost everyone doubts that that will happen. One prison guard predicts that the prison system will continue to be like a vintage car going down a superhighway, just not equipped to do the job. David Snell, ABC News, Elmira, New York.
I'll have more news in a moment.
The 1949 Studebaker. The 1957 Hudson. At Midas, we have mufflers for over 1,700 different models of cars, including models they don't even make anymore. The 1959 Edsel. But as long as people are driving them, we won't forget them.
Tonight, discover an exciting new world of television on another channel, your public TV station. Tonight is extra special on public television. Whether it's a real-life film portrait, or a blockbuster all-star drama, or an original opera. Monday's always extra special. Tonight on your local public TV channel.
In other news, at the court-martial of Colonel Orrin Henderson today, an Army aviator testified that Henderson filed a false report in his investigation of the My Lai massacre. The testimony came from Lieutenant Colonel John Holliday, who said that Henderson's report on My Lai told only of 20 civilians being accidentally killed by artillery and helicopter fire. Holliday, who commanded the air support unit at My Lai, said his aviators had seen more than 100 bodies at My Lai. Captain Ernest Medina, acquitted of My Lai murder charges, resigned from the Army today to go to work for a Michigan helicopter firm partly owned by his attorney, F. Lee Bailey. The U.S. command in Saigon has announced one of the largest single-day troop withdrawals in more than 2 years. 7 Army units totaling more than 3,200 men were pulled out of combat. The command also said that as of last week, total U.S. troop strength in Vietnam stood at 212,500. That figure, which will continue to shrink, is about 40,000 less than the number of U.S. servicemen assigned to NATO forces in Europe. And there's been a lot of economic pressure to reduce the size of those forces in Europe. ABC's Ray Maloney reports on one U.S. approach to achieve that end.
More U.S. troops for Europe, but this time only temporarily. 12,000 men, mostly from the 1st Division, Fort Riley, Kansas, airlifted over for one of NATO's biggest annual maneuvers, Operation Reforger. 4 years ago, NATO agreed to let the United States withdraw some troops from the NATO command in Europe, part of an early deal aimed at cutting dollar expenditures. In return, Washington agreed to fly full units back once a year for maneuvers aimed at stressing their continued attachment to the NATO command and also, incidentally, to show the speed with which U.S. troops can reach Europe in an emergency. The 12,000 men will all be on the ground here within 6 days, despite weather conditions that sometimes close down the neighboring civilian airport. The U.S. Air Force says it could, if necessary, get them here a great deal faster, but it won't say exactly how fast. Some specialized equipment comes with the men, packed, ready for action, gas tanks filled inside the bellies of giant C-5 cargo planes. But the bulk of their equipment, the tanks, the artillery, stays here in Europe to be picked up within a matter of hours of touchdown. With the dollar under fiercer and fiercer attack, with calls for major cutbacks in U.S. troop strength here, many West Germans believe Operation Reforger may be the thin edge of the wedge, that Washington may seek to maintain its commitment to NATO without the expense of keeping 250,000 men permanently stationed here just through this kind of operation. In theory, the scheme is perfect. In fact, as West Germans insist and U.S. officials reluctantly admit, it probably would not work. Because if war ever did come, these airfields would be knocked out by rockets long before any troop planes could touch down. Ray Maloney, ABC News, Rhein-Main Air Base, West Germany.
In the American League Championship Series today, the Baltimore Orioles defeated the Oakland Athletics 5-1 to take a 2-0 lead in their best-of-5 series. There was no National League game scheduled today. I'll have tonight's comment in a moment.
This is Pontiac's idea of what a small car should be. Pontiac's new Ventura 2. It's stingy with your gas money. It's tough and built to last. And even though it's got a small car price, Ventura 2 is loaded with Pontiac's style and stamina. Ventura 2 is Pontiac's idea of what a small car should be.
That looks pretty tough, Roy, for a car.
Pontiac's new Ventura 2. It's a cut above.
Purina Cat Chow, the high-protein cat food, is happy to announce 2 new flavors. New liver flavor Purina Cat Chow and new tuna flavor Purina Cat Chow. So now a cat can jump around from new tuna flavor Purina Cat Chow to new liver flavor Purina Cat Chow, then to original flavor Purina Cat Chow, to new liver, new tuna, liver, original Purina Cat Chow, now in 3 delicious flavors.
Espionage, I suspect, is the most overrated craft that man engages in. Its charisma seemed in decline as the James Bond movies went out of fashion, but now Britain's spectacular roundup and expulsion today of 105 Russian spies injects new drama that is rather phony into an almost useless business. Getting secret information, the evidence is no trick. In this country, ordinary newspaper reporters, without gadgets and not chased by bevies of beautiful sex-starved women, publish secret information in the daily papers. The trick is interpreting the information back at the Home Office where it arrives. That's where the espionage system falls apart. We had information that the Japanese were likely to attack Pearl Harbor. We disregarded it, and we got zapped. Hitler got our whole D-Day plan from the spy Cicero in Turkey. He disbelieved it, prepared for the wrong invasion, and lost the war. Atomic secrets remain fashionable in spy fiction, but every physicist knows there aren't any such secrets. There are now about 10 nations, some of them rather primitive, who, without seeing our secrets, could produce A-bombs in just a few years if they were willing to do the engineering job it takes. Espionage, let's face it, is mostly a make-work, WPA-type business. It provides men of a romantic turn of mind with jobs stealing information they could probably find in technical journals, and it provides counterintelligence with jobs tracking those men down, with no real net gain except for the policy of full employment. When Khrushchev came to this country, he told our CIA chief, "We are both using the same spies. If we got together and paid them one salary, we could save money." Some people thought he was joking. I didn't. That's tonight's news and a comment. I'm Howard K. Smith. Good night.
In news of Tennessee this hour, a Nashville man hijacked a private plane early this morning, and the attempt ended in death for 3 persons in Jacksonville, Florida. Details next on the Eyewitness News.
Zenith introduces Kitchen Chromacolor, Bedroom Chromacolor, Living Room Chromacolor, announcing famous Zenith Chromacolor in a new 16-inch portable that outcolors, outbrightens, outdetails, and outperforms every other color.